Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
No banter, but happy birthday, Steve.
Hey, this is, of course, the podcast where we talk with advocates and members of the disability community to educate and inspire better conversation about disability. Hey, my name is Rob Minot, and joining me today is Mr. Ryan Fleury.
My name is Ryan Fleury. Hello.
And look who else it is. It's Miss Liz Malone.
And my name is not Ryan Fleury. Thank you very much.
As was mentioned, no Steve Barkley because he's probably off getting having some Irish whiskey somewhere because it is his birthday. So no Steve.
Nope.
Hey, how the heck are you guys?
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, you're always fabulous.
Am I?
Yeah.
I'll change it up next week.
Okay. What about you, Malone? How are
Well,
you doing?
because you brought up the whole you guys being so polite and Canadian and all, I loved that story about the bus driver, the Canadian who hijacked the bus. Did you hear about that?
No, I don't think I did.
That's so funny. We hear about it in the US because it was making fun of Canadians.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
so apparently someone hijacks a bus, a public transit bus in somewhere in Canada. I don't even remember where.
Okay.
And but the reason why they were laughing and making fun of it being such a Canadian crime was that the hijacker made the stops.
I don't know if that's true. That's
They made stops, and either I can't remember if it was they let some people off and somebody came on and they took their fare and everything, and it was
Wow.
like the most polite hijacker ever.
Hey, well, listen, as a Canadian, I'm going to lean into that story. I'm going to be like, yeah, it's absolutely. That's how awesome we are.
The
Like,
only thing that would
our
have
bank
topped that,
robbers, our bank robbers will actually help you, fill out your deposit slip.
the only thing that would have topped that is if he had taken them through the Tim Hortons drive-through first.
Yeah. In fact, he probably did.
Maybe.
Yeah. He stopped at a Canadian Goose crossing. Made
Yep.
sure all the babies and the mama duck goose got across the street. Okay.
Oh, that's so sickeningly sweet.
Well, there you go.
So, quick question. How are you, Rob?
I'm good. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm great.
Well, of course he's great. He's Canadian.
That's right.
Duh.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's busy. It's hard to believe that it's almost that we're actually officially now, I guess, in the Christmas season. We're in the Christmas zone because I'm starting to see commercials and
Yep.
Christmas lights starting to come up on my street. So it's official. So yeah, that to look forward to for 3 months. Sorry, 2.
That's all right. It'll be gone before you know it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Anything new? Nothing new?
Nope. That's it. On with the show.
Okay. Well, why the heck don't we get started then? And hey, Ryan,
Hey, Rob.
what the heck are we doing today?
Today we are talking with Marshall Walters, who is the developer of an app called SonifEye. Marshall, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, we are very excited because this sounds like a very cool app. So before we get too far ahead of our skis. See what I did there? Another Canadian reference.
Really nice.
Let's tell us a little bit about SonifEye and what it does, and then we'll sort of dive into the specifics.
Yeah. So, SonifEye is an app for iOS, for iPhone or iPad. And really at a high level, what it allows is taking a picture of anyone's surroundings, and then it processes that picture and pulls out the major colors within it. The hues, their tints, their shades, and then translates that into musical notes. And so offers a way to hear the color in an image, and also kind of learn along the way of what specifically those colors correspond to through a training mode that's within the app.
So, Marshall, do you identify colors with sounds, or where did the idea for SonifEye come from?
So a little bit of background is I've actually been developing SonifEye over the last 2.5 years after work. It was an idea that was born out of my graduate year at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm actually a major in biomedical engineering, or I majored in biomedical engineering, and I got inspired by the field of sensory substitution. I think it's a field that there's some products out there on the market. But I think there's some untapped potential there, and it's a really exciting field in terms of showing really what we're capable of in terms of learning and growing no matter what age. And I have some exciting research that I could point to. I myself didn't pursue a PhD in sensory substitution by any means. However, I have been doing a lot of kind of outside learning through my grad year, kind of basing SonifEye in theory, and in the sense that you truly can learn to hear color. And so kind of through that grad year, upon learning about sensory substitution, and really Dr. Paul Baccarita being one of the main names who started that field, and then seeing some different applications. Sometimes there's some talks on a TED Talk about some of these maybe sensory substitution applications, but there's it's maybe not a large field, but there's definitely some nice papers out there showing what researchers are doing around the country in terms of creating these devices, I'll say. And so with all that being said, that's why I ended up making it. The field inspired me, and I wanted to add my own sensory substitution device into the mix.
So what was it specifically then that prompted you to sort of choose color and sound to sort of pair with that idea of sensory substitution?
Well, it's kind of twofold. I kind of through my grad year, I was spending my family's originally from California, and then I moved over kind of centrally to the Midwest and to Wisconsin, and so spent each week kind of chatting with my grandfather, and he has macular degeneration, and so I was able to kind of really kind of chat with him through what that experience was, the process of losing eyesight, and I myself being a sighted individual, it was good perspective into what that transition is like, and through chatting with him, he was interested in kind of this concept of hearing color, because I had chatted with him about some of these different applications in the sensory substitution field, and so we kind of workshopped it together to look at that specific association, as well as this isn't necessarily a new idea. There are some applications that have translated or mapped, color to sound, but typically those applications were just on pure tones, taking a single hue and mapping it to a particular tone, and not necessarily capturing the tints, shades, and tint shades and tones that really make up all the color that there is to see. And so it's kind of those two things in tandem, of creating something kind of through those conversations with my grandfather, but then also seeing that there was maybe a way of representing more of that color information than had been done in the past.
Yeah, I see, and I love that, and that really sort of resonates with the podcast, because we talk to developers all the time, and so many really great tools start out because the developer has some sort of a personal relationship to disability, whether it's a loved one or somebody in their family that needs some sort of a tool or an app that actually doesn't exist. So, it's a very age-old story for us, and one that yeah, I think is really cool.
Thank you, and I will kind of preface before getting into everything that SonifEye does and maybe the theory behind it and everything is that I'm still learning, and that's why when I had reached out, kind of looking just for feedback on the app, I recognize being a sighted individual who's only had one, uh, you know, um, visually impaired user be my main tester.
Right.
That there'd be some room for improvement. So that's also where I'm looking to just kind of learn through it and really aim to make it a functional and valuable app.
It's the color it can be really, pretty complex, because, and like you were talking about earlier, it's got hue, saturation, gradients, tone, like all of these things.
There, I'll say sound gives you a lot of different, let's say, um, for lack of a better word, things that you can encode information with. Where, like you just mentioned, right? You can use pitch, you could use timbre,
Right.
you could use loudness, and so my what I ended up kind of going for with the app was really leaning into the sense of different instruments, and the fact that different instruments in their timbres sound noticeably different, and so it's something that users could learn and really pick up on if they're hearing red versus if they're hearing blue, and two colors that are pretty well separated on the color wheel. And so with that being said, there is a lot that goes into color. There's color evokes emotion, and color evokes imagery too, for folks that have experienced it through sight. And so at least right now in the current iteration of SonifEye, I had gone through with my available instruments, with friends and my family, in order to kind of a small user group testing, if you will, in order to get their sense of what instrument pairs with which color, and so based off of our experience with color, we chose the instrument that associates with that. But that being said, kind of leaned into the sense that blues are very bassy,
Mm.
a kind of a deep instrument, if you will. And I'll throw out too. I have two buddies of mine who are supporting me. They're musicians themselves, supporting me in the app. I'm the kind of solo developer. They're in the hands in the code and what have you. So I may misspeak when it comes to musical terms. But for blues representing kind of bassy instruments, I think kind of gets that sense of depth. I don't want to say sadness, but get that kind of depth.
Mhm. Right.
Whereas the reds, oranges, those brighter colors are kind of the kind of zippy violin, viola. Whereas you have the greens kind of being maybe a little bit more whimsical. Went with guitar and banjo for that. And so in my head, I think it'd be really special to make it configurable for users, if folks want that. But right now, that's how I guess it was defined. A nice long-winded answer for you, but that's how I came to define the color music associations.
So as of right now, Marshall, how many distinct, I guess, defined colors do you have in your app as of present day?
Yeah. As of right now, there's 12 distinct hues that are represented by individual instruments. Really, you can grow that to be theoretically as many as you want. Right now, I'm limited on funding, and and but that's what we're representing right now is 12 distinct hues, as well as their tints, shades, and tones.
So then so of the 12 hues and then different tints, so does a specific, like, so let's just say like blue as an example, and there's different shades of blue or within that the blue spectrum. So then each of those different tints has its own unique signature timbre.
It's in. I'll say that all the blues are associated with, are all linked by being played by the same instrument. And what I'm realizing now is I didn't continue on in the sense of what the color information is being encoded by is, you have blue represented by a singular instrument, but then you're able to use things like pitch and loudness of that instrument to represent the, lighter tints as you get closer to white, as well as those, darker shades as you get closer to black, as well as leveraging, other of those, musical note options to represent grayscale, and those being the tones as you take steps to gray. So it's all linked by the instrument. But as a user spends time, and this is kind of the theory behind it, as a user spends time with, learning the music associations, maybe the instruments are kind of quick to learn in a sense because they're so noticeably different because of their timbres. But that as you spend time, hearing the differences between, high pitched, if you will, tints versus low pitch shades, those might be a little bit harder to tease out with your ear. But if you spend the time with it, then you'd be able to know if the, picture that you took is representing those, brighter colors or those darker colors, but everything linked by instruments with distinct timbres.
So talk to me a little bit about your experience in developing something like this, in this sensory substitution / sonification realm, because it sounds like you've kind of dove into it head first. What's the sense that you get? Is this becoming more prevalent, and is it kind of evolving as a thing? Because here on the podcast, of course, we've talked to a few different people who have been experimenting with this. People taking things like astronomical data and converting it into sound, things like that. Is it, from your experience, becoming more and more something that people and developers are experimenting with?
I think it's a bit overlooked, if I'm being genuine, as a, and I'll say I'm not 100% knowledgeable on the field and products that are going into the market. I'll say that. But I think it's a bit overlooked. I think sometimes there's this view that, I guess what I'll say is that I think, this concept of neuroplasticity, which is at kind of the center of why sensory substitution works. And really that as a term is just that our brains can learn and grow and develop. And that, really it's through our senses that we're able to develop more. And that, I think through these different applications, like I think that idea of sonifying, galaxy information is awesome, because it gives a different way to engage with that information. There's a learning curve there where, you would need to, I guess I won't speak to the creation, but there's a learning curve to kind of learn what those associations are. But let's say you have that basis, then, who knows what that might open up, I think, in terms of, finding commonalities that maybe, or hearing commonalities, that you wouldn't necessarily see. So I kind of bit of a tangent, but what I'd say is, there are some products on the market. Like I think the most popular one that comes to, or maybe the one that comes to mind is the Neosensory. It's the company, and they came out with a speech to tactile sense wristband. It originally started as a tactile vest, and there's a TED talk about it from oh man, I remember his last name, Engelman. It hurts me that I'm forgetting the first name. But it started as a tactile vest, but it's a wristband that kind of gives you, vibrations along the kind of circumference of your wrist, where, lower frequency sounds are at the base of your wrist, higher frequency sounds are at the top of your wrist. And anything that's kind of it picks up in your environment, um, it encodes that. And so, a doorbell sounds different from a dog barking, sounds different from someone saying horse to someone saying, Canada, if you will. And that, it gives an opportunity for folks to maybe learn in a different way. So I'd say is I honestly think there's some untapped potential, because I think that we're only learning how to maybe, I think there's some of those lower hanging fruit in the sense of taking data, and representing it in sound, and you can really kind of, I think, do a lot with that. There's different work of sonifying graphs,
Yeah.
and sonifying data real time, and being able to pull out the differences rather than a kind of a visual analysis. You can kind of everything's kind of a baseline noise until you hear a change. And so, once again, I feel like maybe I'm digressing, but I
No,
think
no,
there's
no,
untapped
no.
potential. I think there's untapped potential.
I know, absolutely. I think I would totally agree. And when it comes to accessibility and taking things that historically we've just been like, oh yeah, that's just not accessible. Somebody can't use this. Uh, but if we can take that and use this idea of sensory substitution and make it accessible, I mean, that's a huge deal. And I suspect that you're right. I think that this is something that we haven't really tapped into yet.
Because I mean, there's different ways to look at it too. Because there's the sensory substitution field, which is really focused to, I'd say, most focused on applying to disabilities where maybe there's some information, some sensory information that isn't captured, and then that is picked up by some sensor and then delivered to a different sense. So in the sense of speech to tactile sense, it's the you have an individual who can't hear speech. Well, they're getting it through their skin. There's this concept with SonifEye where there's individuals who can't perceive color. They get that through kind of hearing and through their ears. And that's where I think sensory substitution is such a fascinating field, because it's not our it's not our eyes that see, quote unquote. It's not our ears that hear. It's our brain that's doing all that. It's receiving the signals from our eyes, it's receiving the signals from our ears, but it's really our brain that's allowing us to kind of perceive what we've seen, and register what we've seen and register what we've heard. And so really the brain is flexible. And so that's where there's some really exciting studies that have been done in this field, where an individual, and this is one of the flagship devices, was called tactile vision substitution system, or TVSS, and where created by Dr. Paul Baccarito, where it was a kind of a relatively small device, with, I want to say it was a 10 by 10 grid of like kind of small little pokers, actuators on this box. And it was positioned on the small of the back of blind users. And there was a camera that the blind users controlled over their shoulder. And it was through that box that, it was representing a ball rolling on a table, if you will, in kind of a simple sense. And users through really a 3-week training period. There's a really great paper by Guarniero, believe is the name. Experience of Tactile Sense is the name of the paper. And this blind individual who was pursuing their PhD in philosophy, used the TVSS system, went through the 3-week training program. And it was a really great paper to show what I'd argue kind of the power of sensory substitution is that through using these devices, assuming they're created well and that, they're learnable, a user no longer, maybe when they're first starting out, they're experiencing the the small actuation on their back representing a ball rolling. But after the 3-week training period in this example, the user no longer felt the sensation in the sense that they were more so just directly perceiving what the camera was seeing, quote unquote, and that the tool just becomes kind of an extension of them, because because of our neuroplasticity, the brain kind of grows to accept that new kind of information presented to the skin. But then the brain's able to work its magic, and then in a sense the blind participant was able to see, quote unquote, if you even want to call it that. And Guarniero's experience was really, I think, eye-opening to me, because it kind of taught, there was a section in that kind of thesis where he had talked about, or they had talked about, seeing a flame flicker, and that they were able to study the flame, and they were directly perceiving the kind of the rapid fluctuations of that flame, and so it's I think that's something that's special about this, is that the brain's really flexible, and that if you're able to capture the sensory information that's missing in the sensory substitution realm, and deliver that through a different sense channel, which I think is most commonly tactile sense through the skin, or sound, encoding information in sound. The brain has an incredible knack to use that information, get comfortable with it, and really build let's say kind of a habit where you're no longer this is where kind of the idea for SonifEye would be that if someone really spends time with the app and learns the color to music association, that at some point they wouldn't be kind of straining their brain to be like, was that a violin or was that a banjo? They would just know,
Right.
and that when they take the picture, they would just directly perceive the color because they've already gone through the training.
Hey everyone, Steve here, breaking from the banter for a quick word about Canadian assistive technology. When you're considering assistive tech, we know it's a major decision and every penny counts. That's why we're committed to making your experience as supportive as possible. Our team has over 35 years of experience in the assistive technology sector, bringing expertise, empathy, and service to our customers. We don't just sell products. Our number one concern is ensuring your needs are met. We offer free consulting and will make the best recommendation we can, even if the best solution isn't a product we sell. You'll get peace of mind with our price matching policy, guaranteed if you find a lower advertised price. To get you started, we include 1 hour of free remote training with every single product. And for those big purchases, we now offer flexible payment plans through Partially, allowing you to break payments into 2 to 12 monthly installments. We provide toll-free phone support for all products and work with our service partner, Chaos Technical Services, for quick repairs. Plus, our unique loan program lets you try out demo equipment to ensure the device is the right fit before you commit. At Canadian Assistive Technology, we're dedicated to making sure we find the right assistive technology solution for you. Visit us online at www.canastech.com or call us toll-free at 1-844-795-8324. And now, back to the show.
Okay, so I'm going to be super annoying, but if you've ever listened to the show, you know that already. So, and don't you like it when people who have no knowledge of developing an app will tell you exactly what they want the app to do with zero concept of the complexities or the cost and all that other stuff? But so
I think it's beautiful, though. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you like Liz's wish list. But I guess when I am very fascinated with the concept for sure. And I did download the app and I played around with it a little bit. Not long enough to, know it inside and out by any stretch, but just played around with it just to kind of hear some of the sounds or whatever. But I one thing that I wish, and I think it's because especially and I'm legally blind, so I'm in your target market. Is there any way that something like this could allow a user to pick the timbre of the instrument that they associate with a certain color group because it's a very there's an emotional connection with visualization, especially if you have past sight and your recall of it and your any vivid memories that you have in your mind of color, and then obviously the very powerful sense of incorporating that with a sound element is that so like let's say for example like for like because we're talking about blue, that your app like assigns a certain timbre for that particular group. But what if like my emotion to blue, for example, I'm just making it up, is like I think of like string instruments because I think of like the fluid sound of the orchestra and I think of that and I want that to be my bridge to associating blue rather than being given the app's instruction on what you're going to tell me is blue. I mean, so does that sound like ridiculously demanding or
No, honestly, no. And I'll first start by saying thank you. Thank you for giving the app a shot and expressing this because that's totally in the realm of possibility. And really, I want to make this for the folks that find value in the idea and want to use the app. So I want you to know I got my pen and paper right next to me, and I've written that down.
no, because I define myself as I'm a woman of a certain age, which is also code for saying I'm really stubborn. I'm stubborn as hell. I'm the old dog that doesn't want to learn a new trick. That sometimes that thought of like, oh, I have to now understand what the app is using this sound and then you almost don't want something that could be something that is expanding your mind in terms of experiencing a different like a mental visualization through sound to be almost daunting because you're now having to sort of I mean maybe if you're younger, if a kid, I think it would be great for children who are just making these associations, especially if you don't have the visualization of color, and then you're already in that group of gobbling up information, like weed sucking up water. But I guess like if you're already established and have this realm, and you want to have something that could be that you can find some sort of enjoyment in experiencing something in a new way, that almost like that you're almost having to learn a new language, and I almost see that could possibly be a barrier because then you're like, oh gosh, what's the drum or what's the piano or what's the guitar, so that's why I'm just saying for me, like if I kind of knew like, okay, when I think of reds or something, I'm thinking like, yeah, I want guitar, or if I'm thinking of this, like, oh yeah, like I want like grays, yeah, I want that to be like beats or whatever. I don't know. I'm just kind of, shooting from the hip a little bit, but.
No, honestly, I like the sound of that, and can definitely work to make that an option. I mean, one of my there's been a passion project of mine, so of making the software flexible, and that if you craft the software in a particular way from the onset, then you give yourself room for flexibility for change later on. So that being said, the only piece is time, and so that's why over this next year and so on, I'll be kind of adding features and such, and this is what I'm looking for. So I'm really thankful for the suggestion.
No, and you got and Ryan is he's blind and he's a musician, and and I'm a former musician and legally blind, so like we're your good test market. We're your unpaid focus group, right?
well, thank you.
I wonder too, Marshall, in your research, because sonification is new but not new, is there data out there to show a certain number of the population that identifies sound with color, that recognizes, 80% of those that do recognize sound by color recognize blue with harp or red with strings? Because that data has to be out there somewhere, I would think.
In my research, I haven't found that yet. And
Okay.
if anyone that's listening does know that, I would gladly leverage that and incorporate it. From my perspective, it's a kind of a need for user studies of here are these colors and here are these instruments, pair them, and then over so many number of people, you'd find what's the most typical, and have that be the default.
That's right.
But there are folks with synesthesia, I think is the kind of thought that comes to mind.
Yeah.
But I would love to see research paper on that question in particular. I just haven't found it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but sound is like it's such a personal
It is.
experience. I mean, that's why when you've got your telephone and you've got, 60 built-in ringtones, just, and because there are certain sounds that I hear it and I'm like, oh my God, that is, I don't know how anyone in their right mind could ever choose that as a ringtone. And then there I am online at the store and I hear it going off. I'm like, oh my God, that's that person, So it's so I just feel like it's such a personal experience. I guess with anything,
could be.
So but I just wonder if that was an element of it, that it could make it even like it could make it more engaging and not feel like something you have to learn to kind of figure it out, because sometimes at the end of the day, when you're using an app like this and you're developing especially when it comes to relationships with color, I hate to say it, but sometimes you just want the freaking thing to tell you, is this blue or green? And I know that sounds silly, but honestly, Marshall, sometimes like finding an app that will just do that, you can't even get that. You get it that'll give you like a whole written description of the fibers or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, is it blue or is it freaking green? Like, I don't need to know the sub fibers and the fabric type and and all these different places on the internet where this color is seen. And I'm like, what is cyan? I don't know what cyan is.
And I love that, and what I will throw out is in SonifEye now, and once again open for feedback if there's anyone that's listening wants to give me feedback as well. In the app, for each picture there is a mode called Color Touch, where essentially the picture takes up a good chunk of the screen, and you're then able to tap on it with your finger or stylus, and you get that instant voiceover guidance of red or green, and then the instrument will play right after it. So that is one way to immediately get at what have I taken of what I've taken a picture of, where I've tapped on the screen, what color is that.
And that is probably one of the most valuable parts of an app like that. As silly as it sounds, is that you can get that, and then maybe as a even if it's like a separate feature where it's like, yes, you've got this really interesting tool that will create this audible version of like an audible kaleidoscope of what a picture may entail in terms of color, but then something as simple as you have something in frame, you touch it, and it just gives you the damn color. I'm like, oh my God, a girl can dream, right? I mean, Rob, Ryan, you guys know what I'm talking about, right?
No, I just grab a shirt and put it on. I don't care what color it is. If it goes with jeans, that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's you are the guy that when they say, did he get dressed in the dark? Yes.
Yep.
He really did.
That's honestly one of the difficult things I feel like I've been coming across with the app, in the sense of, within the app, there is that, color touch mode where, okay, let's say theoretically you've taken a picture of your shirt, and that it's in the center of the image, then you'd be able to go to that, color touch mode, in the app and press in the center of your image, because that the, shirt is in the center. But I think I feel as though it's tough to make that assumption that where the shirt is located in the picture. And if you're taking a picture in a dark room, well, SonifEye can only use the colors that the camera picks up. And so there's sometimes where you have to use flash, for instance, in order to kind of pull the color out of the, out of the dark. If you take a picture at night, you'll get a lot of shades. Those dark tones, you still get some hues, but you'll primarily get the shades of those hues, which maybe that's what people are looking for. But I think there's kind of that limitation of the camera itself, in the sense of, do you know where where in that image is the object that you want to know the color of? And if you know that it's centered, well, then that's great, and you'd be able to tap right in the center and get that color out. I think that's one thing that seems a bit of a tough thing to ensure, to know where you are tapping on the image, what is that object, and then right now you'll get the color of from where you've tapped, but what specifically that object is. I've been playing around a bit with using AI in the chat. I think it's a hot topic right now, in the sense of having a description of what the object is or what you've taken a picture of. But what I've found is the AI models I've tried to leverage, they just aren't consistently correct. And I wouldn't want to lead anyone astray in the sense of, of what the picture is representing. And so that's where, for right now, how the app is set up is taking a picture, and it's the, and then using that, you could, tap on the image in order to pull out, what specifically the color is, and with voiceover on, it'll tell you, but with the caveat in mind of maybe you need flash on, and if you're looking at a shirt, for instance, for something functional, well, you probably want to make sure it's centered in the image, which I think that I'd probably defer to you both in terms of if that's a reasonable kind of ask, in a sense of centering something with the camera when you can't necessarily see.
I personally don't think it should matter anymore. Apple and Google are all preaching to the moon how good their cameras are, how better the pixels are, how brighter the images are. They're so good year after year after year. These are smartphones. They should be able to intelligently tell you if your picture's in frame. And iOS does to a certain degree with voiceover. It'll say move your head left, move your head right, and guide you so that you're in the frame. So maybe you can utilize some of that. I don't know how much access there is to that.
Well, and I think they all have these disclaimers that with all of the low vision tools, they all say the same thing, that that there's no accuracy to it, and and it has all those variables, just like you mentioned, Marshall, about like lighting and this, and it might interpret it incorrectly or whatever. So that's sort of like sort of a very normal user experience in terms of understanding the or having reasonable expectations of the success rate. But the only other thing I would add to that is that when it comes to certain apps like this, is that not everybody uses voiceover, and so if you're not using voiceover and you're using like something like you use, like I use a lot of zoom and magnifier and things like that, and reverse contrast and stuff. So if I'm not in voiceover mode, then it's not going to necessarily give me that feedback.
Gotcha.
So you want something self-voicing then, don't you? Boy, you're demanding.
Or at least like, or even if it displays it, and I have the opportunity to even like make it read it to me, or make it zoom so I can see it if I'm not in a voiceover mode or whatever, because. Right. Yeah, because a lot of times, like if you're low vision, like my color perception is freaking horrible. I mean, Ryan, you and I could have a mismatchy standoff in terms of not matching colors, just because at the time, like there are so many colors I can't see the difference between.
Yeah, and we do know that the numbers of people that are totally blind are a small minority, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. yeah, it's a lot of low vision, and then I mean, yeah, and then there are just probably people who you know may not even fall into the full category of being actually legally blind, but impaired enough that they just don't have perception of color, and then they wouldn't be using voiceover. So
But then again, they might as an assistive technology tool, right? There may be people with reading issues or comprehension issues, and they need that voice. Just like more and more sighted people are using captioning on Netflix and other streaming shows and audio description, maybe voiceover can be that tool that bridges that information to them in a way that they can comprehend.
but I don't know any sighted people that go full on voiceover. They'll
No,
use
no,
like,
no.
but like I said, but if you're not in full on voiceover mode, it's not going to work. So I mean, I will do things that will read the content of the page, but that does not activate voiceover, and so it'll still miss that content.
Right.
So because and whenever I did put it in voiceover mode, I was like, oh my God, I need to get it out of voiceover mode because so yeah, so it's either if you're in full voiceover mode, then more power to you. But yeah, and things like that, that are programmed that way are great. But if you're someone who uses a lot of just like every last little breadcrumb of the other accessibility functions, like I am the queen of the two finger swipe down on my screen and have things read to me if I want to and stuff. But yeah, but I don't go into full on voiceover mode.
So you want it like on demand. You want to prompt it to read to you when you want it to read to you.
Yeah, or at least display it in a way that I can then either
Right,
if I can't
zoom in
see
on
it,
it, see it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it almost has to kind of be a visual and an audible for via voiceover.
Sorry, Marshall. You got more
Oh my
work
God,
ahead
Marshall,
of you.
we were
No, honestly, this is beautiful and really kind of why this is where I'll say I'm still learning, and I've leaned into the voiceover guidance as being the main accessibility tool, as of right now, which Liz, as you've experienced.
and I think that there is the assumption that, oh, you're low vision, you use voiceover. I'm like, no, wait, hold it right there, because then when you go into full on voiceover mode, then you have any usable vision, and there are things that you want to do from a visual standpoint, like you can't do it. You have to get out.
Yeah, because the voiceover gestures are different than if the voiceover's
Yes.
off. Yeah.
Yes. I had I had a woman who was at the gym I went to, and she was a fully sighted person, and she accidentally locked her phone in voiceover mode, and somehow she figured out a few of the gestures, and she's like, do you know about phones? And I'm watching her, I was like, oh my God, you're in voiceover mode. It was the funniest freaking thing. Like, and she was like, but she figured out a couple of things. She's like, if I do this, like I can kind of get it to here. I was like, oh my God. I said, look at you, girl. You stumbled into voiceover. She was like in the black hole of technology.
Yeah. And my wife's the same. My wife is sighted, and I have to turn voiceover right off so that she can do anything on my phone because the swipes, the gestures, that they are different.
It's honestly great. I appreciate the perspective, and that's where really I view SonifEye right now as something that will kind of grow, and that
sure.
And so that's where I've got these written down. Choosing your own instrument to color associations based off your experience. Love that, as well as we'll look into this more so in terms of giving a visual in terms of what that color is when you tap on it. Let's say in that color touch mode. What I will throw out is I guess something in the meantime is there is the quote unquote color reveal mode that gives you, based off that picture, it outlines it breaks out all of the hues, tints and shades and that were found in that image. Now, granted, it's not a point touch and you hear based off where you touched in the image what color that is, but it does tell you the colors that are represented in the image, ordered by most prominent to least prominent, and those have color labels that are just on them, and so I would throw that out. But in the meantime, though, or in the future, I'll look to roll that in to make it more usable.
Hey Ryan, see, you could use that feature, lay your outfit out on your bed, and you can be like, "Hey, Mom, I got two socks of the same color. Go me."
I work from home. I could be here in a Speedo every day. It doesn't
But
matter.
but does your Speedo match your shirt?
What shirt? I'm in a Speedo.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm picturing I'm picturing pizza sauce dripping down your chest.
Marshall just wrote down, never come
my
back
God.
to
You know,
AT Banter.
doesn't it all that matters that your outfit sounds good? You know, it
That's
doesn't even have
right.
to look good.
That's
There
nowadays.
you go. Yeah.
Well, Ryan subscribes to the theory like your outfit can taste good too.
Hey, there we go. There we go.
It's leftovers.
It's like a snack for later.
That's right.
And need some sensory substitution right now.
Need some host substitution.
Yeah.
This is the part where Marshall regrets coming on the show.
Yeah.
No way, no way.
No, listen. Well, so before we start to wrap up, I'm just curious. I know you've been engaging with the community to get input. Just out of curiosity, what's kind of some of the reaction from the community, and sort of can you speak to a little bit to how important it is to get community feedback?
Yeah, I'll say, so far have definitely, got encouragement about what the app can do, or at least, the kind of the concept of it. I've gotten positive, or I'll say a constructive feedback in terms of the tutorial mode that I've employed, and have rolled that in for updates. Similarly, for the kind of crop feature, I got some feedback there that I was able to roll in. I am finding that, and I'll plug it here at the end in terms of an email that folks could reach out to. But I think I'm gonna look to leverage a Google form in order to kind of get that feedback directly. Some feedback's been left in comments on the App Store, but and I also had a post on AppleVis in order to kind of pull some feedback as well. So I've gotten some, I guess, to answer your question, I've gotten some. I've gotten positive feedback, which is honestly feels great to know that I'm on the path of making something people will find valuable. But I'll say I'm like with like Liz on your comment about new features, this is the first time I've actually gotten a feature request, which I'm all for. I really want to make it something that the community can leverage and functionally useful to them. And whereas, up to this point, still valuable, but maybe more kind of tweaks on the base. And so that's where if folks feel so inspired, I'd gladly take those suggestions. Once again, I want to make something because I'm doing this development, in my own free time after work. And so, time is a bit scarce. So I want to put my time into the, features, add-ons that are the most exciting for folks. And, Rob, to your other point about, the value of getting feedback, really it's everything for me. The base of the app itself was kind of born from just a passion for the field. But truthfully, it's, I recognize that, I'm only one person, and my grandfather that I worked with is also only one person, so maybe at best a sample size of two. And that, it's really through, really everyone else that leverages it that, things that maybe I took for granted when developing it will be able to be identified. And really, I find that feedback really valuable because, like I mentioned, lets me focus on the features and improvements that people care about most.
Well, and see, and now you've dialed Liz into this now, so now you've got like an endless supply of input.
Constructive criticism.
It's constructive, no, but like I said, I was playing around with it. I put a picture of my dog in it, and I knew. I was typing on my dog, I'd get white. So I was like, so I was using things like that I knew that, so I can kind of get the frame of reference. And, but yeah, no, I played around with it, and I was like, oh, this is, and I did see how it pulled all the colors from like the background and stuff like that. And, so no, I mean, I think it's a very interesting concept for sure. And I love that it was born from, your relationship with your grandfather and his personal journey with macular degeneration. So
I think the last plug I'll put out there too is, with it being based in sensory substitution, it's this whole concept of learning the associations, and that's the other kind of piece of this, of creating obviously something that's functional, but also I want to the goal with this is to create a kind of an enjoyable learning environment as well. And so that's where there's this kind of the start, and it's a base that I'll be improving on, but to learn those color to music associations, starting with maybe those more, I'll say easier questions, quote unquote, which is the, pulling out differences between instruments. And then it grows more difficult as you get more questions right in order to start teasing out the differences between tints, shades, tones, things along those lines. And so there is that aspect in the app too that, I think I'll be, not that I think I will be continuing to improve on, but it's a piece of it is that, there is this opportunity that if someone spends enough time with the app, with the color associations that they choose, or the default that's in the app, that there comes a point when they don't even need to think about, is that white, or is that red, or is that what have you. They would just know. And I feel confident saying that because of all the sensory substitution theory that sits behind it, where folks really truly do build a kind of habitual sense, with whatever it is, be it a tactile sense on the small of your back, or tactile sense on your wrist, or what have you. And so that's really what I'm looking to do with this, and have notes to kind of improve that musical experience, adding more texture to the music, incorporating new features like Liz, you had mentioned, as well as improving that base of the learning mode, because I think that's the kind of beauty of sensory substitution. It's something I want to lean into. So if people want to follow along with the project, that's what's to come over the next year.
Awesome. Well. So on that note, then, on that note, see what I did there. Where can people find SonifEye, and where can they find you and get involved in delivering some feedback?
Yeah, thank you. So it's SonifEye's on the App Store right now, and it's spelled SonifEye, all one word. And that's where you can find the app on the iOS App Store. I also have an email link for the app if anyone wants to send me suggestions or feedback that way. And it's SonifEye, SonifEye.app@gmail.com. Separate to that, like I mentioned, there is an AppleVis blog post in the iOS app section for SonifEye, and my plan is to post a Google form there in order to kind of capture feedback over time. So it's not posted yet, but I plan to post it over this weekend. So those will be the different channels. I'd take an email at sonifeye.app@gmail.com, or I'd point folks to the AppleVis blog post in order to actually get the Google form link in order to submit their feedback to.
Awesome, Marshall. Well, listen, thanks so much for taking some time out and talking with us about SonifEye.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. And it's a base that will continue to grow, and I really hope to see more sensory substitution and sensory augmentation applications in my lifetime. I think it's, like I mentioned, untapped potential. And I think there's some exciting applications out there if people just look for them.
100% for sure.
So you'll be hearing from me again. I really appreciate you guys taking this time.
No worries. And Liz, you'll be hearing from Liz.
Yeah. I mean, if anything else comes to mind, feel free to send me a note.
I'll actually send you an email so you have my email. And
all right, perfect.
This is just a 1 hour podcast. I mean, we know what can I do?
Yeah, it's just plans.
No, but it's definitely entertaining. It's because you start playing around with it and you're like, oh, what is this? Then you always want to come up with, like, put something else in there or pick another picture because you're like, oh, what kind of sounds am I going to get from this? So, I mean, it's definitely in the right mindset, you could sit there and just waste your time away by loading your photos and just hearing
Yeah.
like sounds and just so
Every time I load a picture of Liz, it just comes up with a sad trombone sound.
it's just
Can we do that?
A little Easter egg or something.
That's right. That would be
No, I
awesome.
wouldn't do it to
Little
Liz. I
Easter
wouldn't do it
egg.
to Liz.
Oh, great.
We'll pay you to do that.
Yeah, that's right. We'll develop a side app. We'll be in touch. All right. Well, thanks again, Marshall. Have a great rest of your night. And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. Appreciate you all.
All right.
And you have a
Thanks.
good day.
Take care.
Thanks, Marshall. That is my theme sound. Womp
Wah,
womp.
wah, wah.
That's right. No, it's very cool. Like, and honestly, something that we didn't touch on at all. This really is a great example of something it's just cool for anybody. I think that anytime you have this idea of sensory substitution, where you're interpreting data a different way through a different sense, there's value there for anybody, whether they're sighted or not. So even like it's cool. Like the idea is cool to be able to just like load a picture in and then hear it, or have it translated into music. I think that there's really applications for everybody in this, and so which kind of puts this in the realm of a very cool universal design.
Well, I mean, even removing it just from, the low vision community. I mean, just strip it away and just put it in front of kids and just kids,
Yeah.
period.
Sure.
Just to, where I almost see it in this environment where like teachers will upload their like selected photos so that the kids will, they'll be like, oh, what kind of song will this play, and and stuff like that. Like, so I mean, I think that there's a lot of different applications, and based on I guess various settings of the in terms of the sophistication of the user. But I mean, yeah, I mean, me as an adult, I'm sitting there like kind of like looking at, oh, here's my dog, I'm touching my dog, oh, look at that. So maybe I can't be the only one that could just sit there and lose myself in an app, but isn't that what they're supposed to do, right?
Exactly. And allowing you to engage with things in a different way that's accessible for you, or just a different way for anybody else. So it's all very cool.
Well, no one else can have the sad trombone. That is my
No, that's true. We'll trademark that.
That's my exclusive sound.
Yeah, you must
Put
know,
in-
you must through work. You must know how to trademark something. We need to trademark that trombone sound.
We should put an Easter egg on the atbanter.com website and have people hunt for it.
Yeah,
See if they can find it.
sure.
Okay.
Another word-winning idea at the back end of a show. No, actually, I like this idea, and it'll be like a MP3 of the sad trombone sound.
Or Liz saying something sarcastic.
Dirty.
You're gonna put a soundbite of me?
Oh, we got hours of your voice recorded.
Yeah, that's right. I'm still working on your audio.
You guys have enough audio of me that you guys.
We
I'm
could throw it
surprised
up
you're
to
having.
11 labs and clone you.
I'm
Yep.
surprised I haven't already been put into an AI app and a obscene episode being
Actually-
produced.
Ryan, that's such a good idea. You're right. You're absolutely right. 11 labs. Yeah, we're going to clone Liz's voice. We don't even need you to show up now.
I know.
So if the audience
Wow.
notices a sycophantic Liz who just does nothing
They will
but
not. They won't know the difference. They're like, oh yeah, that's Liz. That's obnoxious Liz. There she goes. Right. If you make her polite, then they're like, okay, no, that's a fake. That's not Liz.
That's right.
She's
It's all about the tone.
Yep. All right. Dinner time.
Let's get out of here. Yeah, let's
Yep.
get out of here. All right. Well, Ryan,
Yes, Rob.
how you doing?
I'm fabulous. Thank you.
Supposed to go to Liz. Hey, Liz.
Hey Ryan.
Hey,
Hey.
Rob.
Hey. Hi.
Hello.
Where can people find us, Rob? Well, they can find us. Funny you ask. They can find us at atbanter.com. Oh, and it's not so fun when I throw you guys off, is it? Now you guys know how to respond.
Hey, you took my line, so I don't have to do anything. I'm done.
No, you're stunned. It's not fun, is it? Throw you a curveball.
Dinner time, people.
Where can people email us, Ryan?
They can email us at cowbell@atbanter.com.
Where else can they find us, Liz?
Wherever the frig Ryan feels like posting shit.
Oh, it ain't me. I don't post nothing.
Then I guess that's it. Sorry, folks.
No, they can find us on Facebook as well.
And Mastodon.
And hey, they can find Steve over at Canadian Assistive Technology. Although not tonight. He's somewhere out on the floor surrounded by Guinness bottles.
It says happy anniversary.
That's right. So happy birthday to Steve.
Happy birthday, Steve.
Happy anniversary, Steve.
Yeah, he doesn't listen.
What?
Which one?
Oh my God, no, my watch started talking.
It's like, which one?
I have no idea what that was my Siri. I don't want to say it too loud because then it'll.
Yeah, it's fair.
Siri.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Shush
Hey,
you.
Siri. What color's my shirt?
It's ketchup red.
Womp,
It's
womp.
Dorito orange.
Dorito orange. That should be a color.
It's Cheeto orange.
Could be
Yeah,
a color, actually.
it should be.
It's
Yeah.
Oreo crumb
to-
brown.
Talk to the Crayola people.
Yep. All right. It's going to
Let's
about do
go.
it for us
Let's get
this
out of
week.
here. All right, that is going to about do it for us this week. Big thanks, of course, to Marshall for joining us, and we will see everybody next week.
Bright and early, 8 a.m. show.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions, as well as physical access solutions and augmentative communication aids across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com, or if you're in the Vancouver Lower Mainland, visit our storefront at number 106 828 West 8th Avenue in Vancouver. That's one block off Broadway at Willow. You can reach us by phone toll-free at 1-844-795-8324 or by email at sales@canastech.com.